Well, hello there, Meow Mentors. It's Cat Lady Justin, and this is the Kitty Boss, where we pick, pamper, and protect your practically perfect pussycat for a lifetime of unconditional love. We've got another special show because as we record this, it's the month of September, and we have a surprise guest, as well as Dr. Rachel Geller, one of the foremost cat behaviorists in the world, as well as a cat chaplain, and now the chief executive of All Cats All the Time. So we should really talk about that a little bit later. But it's the month of September and it's really hot here in the UK. So we do need to talk a little bit more again and remind you about what to do in the heat to help protect your pussycats properly in the heat. But we have lots of really cool things to talk about this month. And if you're listening to this at another time, then keep listening because this stuff will be relevant to you at some point. So, first of all, let's welcome Dr. Rachel Geller to the show, our regular co host these days. So, Dr. Rachel, it's great to see your happy face again.
Lovely
How
to
are
be
you?
here. I'm great, Justin. So happy to be here and excited about our special guest, too.
Yeah, me too. Fantastic. So, I said chief executive, I meant president of cat, of all
Oh,
cats all the time.
that sounded very fancy. I kind of liked it. I might take it.
Yeah, president's cool too. So you could call yourself whatever you want, really. You could be
That's the
the
beauty of it all. Yeah.
chairperson or,
I only have to report to myself.
yeah, well, so there you go. So maybe president's good. And then let's bring in our friend Leslie Shale. Leslie is our good friend who actually is in the UK, like I am, and is a cat enthusiast, cat owner. She might have some questions or some advice on her own because she has a lifetime of experience loving cats and living with them. So, Leslie, welcome to the show. It's great to have you.
Thank you.
Awesome. So, like I said in the little intro, and I'm going to change the screen up to do this little foxy thing now. We have a lot to talk about. So, first and foremost, I want to get it out of the way because I'm sitting here sweating and it's in the United Kingdom. So, I know people in California or other places of the world are also experiencing some heat, and they do regularly. And so, I'd like to maybe not do a whole show about it because we talk about it quite a lot because it's so important. But in the heat, there's a few things we really need to do with our cats, for our cats. One of them is hydration. Another one is keeping them cool. So, Dr. Rachel, let's go into those tips a little bit.
Okay. So, yeah, the basics.
Yeah.
Always make sure your cat has access to cool water. That's number one. Make sure it's fresh. Make sure it's clean. Daily, you always are concerned about that microfilm on water, but even more so when it's really hot and it's really humid and things tend to be stagnant. So access to fresh, cool water is very important. And in addition, make sure the bowl is long and shallow rather than smaller and deep. You don't want your cats to feel whisker fatigue, and you don't want your cats to have the whiskers rubbing against the bowls a lot. And this can, even if you don't have a cat who has whisker fatigue, when they're going to the bowl more and more because it is so hot and they do need to be hydrated, we want to be especially mindful of that. So long, shallow, rather than, a bowl that might be shorter and deeper. So
that's a great point because with the bowls, because for example, my friend has a company that does these energy mugs, and now they've come up with these energetic bowls for cats and dogs, and I think they're wonderful. I use all of them, but I noticed that he came out for cats. It's a little bowl. For dogs, it's a big bowl. So I just advise. I said, everyone, look, get the little one if you have a kitten. But if you have a cat that's grown, I suggest get the big bowl, the same as you would for a big dog, because the bowl will be bigger, wider, whether it's food or water in there. Your whisker fatigue, you'll have relatively no risk of that because the bowl is going to be wide enough. The little bowl, I didn't want to discourage or criticize my friend's company, but the little bowl may be appropriate for a kitten. But a lot of people think it's a cat, it's smaller, so it should just go for the bowl. But cats are different than dogs. They have these whiskers, and in the whiskers, it ain't just hair. It's actually, there's nerve cells in there. It's one of the reasons they're always white, even if the cat's a black cat. So there's just so much going on in the whisker, and they're so sensitive. It's not just like a little hair sticking out. So it's really important to try and avoid whisker fatigue or whisker irritation and get a big, wide bowl that doesn't like, rub up against their it'll be almost like if you tried to drink out of something and kept hitting yourself like that. That wouldn't work
Right.
for you. You
It would
need some, yeah. Or for
well, you
example, in the Victorian ages, they had these mugs where with a little bar on here, and that was for the massive mustaches, so that you could sip on. It was mainly an English thing. So Leslie, not that neither of us are old enough to remember, but you might have seen them in like special shops and
Yeah.
antique dealers. These little porcelain bone china cups, teacups with a little mustache bar on them to to prevent the drinking. So it's the opposite with cats. We
Yeah,
don't want anything bumping up against their facial hair, their whiskers.
exactly. And they've
Anyway.
and you know, and cats will tend to drink more in a bowl that's shallower. If you think of like a cat who, our ancestor cats who lived outside in the wild, they would prefer to drink out of shallow moving streams rather than going to like a big large body of water, because that way they can see the motion and the movement in the water.
Mhm.
They can see through the water. So it's just a safety issue for cats too. So just a few, the main thing, like you said, Justin, in the hot weather is constant access to fresh, cool water your cats need to drink. And then common sense things, if you have air conditioning, have that on. If you have a fan, have that on. If you have neither, and you have some type of a cross breeze, open your windows, but with the caveat, have those window locks or window safety systems on your windows so they don't open more than like 2 or 3 inches at the most, because cats do have movable collarbones, and if they get their head in there, they can get their whole body in there. We don't want anybody losing a cat.
Yeah, and that is I don't know about where you are, but where I am, that's like a big issue right now. I don't know why, but all of a sudden there's right in my neighborhood 4 or 5 lost cats at the moment. And these
Mhm.
posters are everywhere and it's heartbreaking. And even my plumber lost his 2 cats. He has 3, 2 of them got out, and 3 weeks later they come back. So
Huh.
thank heavens they're back and they're safe, they're healthy, they're fine. But man, was that stressful for him and his wife. And this is not like this is not some like chump beta guy, as they say. This is a guy who's a tough, tradesman, very highly intelligent person, highly astute person, but he ain't soft, if you know what I mean. And yet these cats are so important to him. He was beside himself for the
Yeah.
whole time,
Mhm.
always searching for them. It's just it wrecks your life. So you really make sure that your cats are. I know in England it's not so popular to have indoor house cats, but if you can do something to protect them and keep them safe for your peace of mind, then yeah, I think it's a good idea because they are getting out. And in the hot weather, it might be even more enticing for them to get out. I'm looking at mine right now. They're down there lounging on the ground. There is a fan on, and they're not using it, but that's their choice. And it's hot, so they're just kind of snoozing like lions in the uh, in the desert. But there you go. So
Yeah.
yeah, so I think that was important to get out of the way first and foremost. Leslie, is there anything that you'd add to that? Anything that we didn't think of in terms anything that you do for the hot weather for your cats?
Well, they're actually in my conservatory, but it's got tiles on the floor. And I keep the windows open at night so that it's cool in the morning. They don't go in
Mhm.
at night. The tiles keep cool so they can lie on there. And they've got their fan. That's
So
about,
that's great.
I've got my fan, but I turned it off in case
For this.
yeah. If I start wilting, I might have to turn it on again.
If you start sweating, we'll turn it on and we won't worry so much. But that's okay. No, that's a great point. So if you do have a conservatory, which is a very British thing, I don't know too many people that have them in stateside, but they're little extension to your house, but they're
Yeah.
usually all glass walled and glass ceilings. So it's almost like having the outdoor space kind of indoor.
Yeah.
It
So
sounds like something we might call a sunroom.
yeah, exactly. So if you have that, that's a good place for the cats to hang out. If you do the way Leslie does it, which is you keep it cool so the tiles don't turn into like baking pizza stones. So that's really, you don't want to make a cat pizza. So I think that's
I'll
great
just,
advice.
I'll just mention about the water. I
Yes.
didn't know that. One of my bowls is
Mhm.
wide and the other one's, straight up
Ah,
and down. So
Oh, good. I'm glad. Good.
that's something good to know. Thank you.
Good.
yeah.
You're
Yeah,
welcome. Good,
it's
good,
very
good.
good to know. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very important. We talk about it a lot because most people actually don't realize that that's an issue,
It's
but it
funny,
is an
Justin.
issue.
It's funny,
Hmm?
Justin, too, because you started off saying we talk about this so much, and here, we just help somebody learn something new. So it's probably not
Uh,
bad to once in a while repeat things, right?
No, no, that's exactly why we do it. I mean, a mentor of mine always likes to say frequency and repetition is the best way. So even with these messages, it's like you know it, but do you really know it? I mean, it's frequency and repetition because it's not only a good reminder for everybody because we can't remember or know everything. None of us are omniscient, but it's also good because we get someone else who's tuning in, or and then they're like, "Oh, it's one thing I didn't know." Certainly, none of us know everything. So that's kind of the first thing I think we got that out of the way. So I think that's really good because there's a heat wave right now. So great. So let's go ahead and answer the first question that I received, which is from our good friend Garnet. So I've got it here. That's why I'm doing this. I'm not like texting. Um, so this is the one where in the title it says cat smells. So it's kind of funny, but I can relate. I can relate because Emily and Charlotte both definitely have some kind of fetish, whether it's a foot fetish or they like the slippers or they like the smells. So anyway, Garnet says, when I am laying down on the bed, Sharuk, one of his cats, seems to have a thing for coming up and burrowing into my armpit. Do cats normally like strong smells? They sure seem to like to lay on the shirt or pants I wore that day if I put them on the bed. I figure this is a sign of our bonding. And then he's, I think, jokingly puts, downside, I am now afraid to wear deodorant or antiperspirant because of this fetish of his. So yeah, so his question is, do cats have a attraction for our body odor? And I don't know, I can't say all cats, but I certainly know that my cats, they do like it.
Well, indeed they do. So, yes, cats in general are attracted to strong smells. They are very olfactory based animals. And in addition to that, not only are they attracted to strong smells in general, but they are
Mm-hmm.
attracted to our strong smells. And armpits, yes, are a source of that. And Justin, as you pointed out, your slippers, that's another great source. So that's why you will often see cats snuggling up in people's armpits, um, slippers, shoes, even underwear. So that is very common cat behavior. It's something that they really like. And this will sound a little funny to some people, but for us cat lovers, this is going to seem perfectly normal. But if you have a cat, who's afraid of going to the vet or afraid of being in the carrier, or you need to move somewhere, putting a pair of underwear or your socks in that carrier that you've worn all day the day before, although it may seem a little strange to the uninitiated in the cat
Mm-hmm.
world, it's actually a great comfort to your cat to have those smells. And those are garments from areas that do have those particularly strong pheromone smells that cats do find so appealing.
So
So,
go
yes,
ahead and stick those dirty undies in your cat carrier
and your
and
vet will
calm your cat
understand.
down.
Yeah.
And maybe surprise your vet. Who knows? If your vet
Um,
finds your panties in your cat carrier, he might be like, "Oh, hello, what is this?"
This is a whole different show now.
That's a different show. You might want to talk to my friend Demona, who runs an extremely famous dating show. Uh,
There you go. Yeah.
we'll see what she thinks about that. But that's yeah. So basically, Garnet, if you're watching or if you're listening to this at a later date, the answer is yes. The answer is yes. Cats do love the strong smells. Most cats, again, not all cats, but most cats are attracted to the strong smells. And there's no harm in it. There's no harm in it. Now, as for your little joke there, whether you're going to wear deodorant or not, there's a non-joke element of that, in that I would watch what kind of deodorant you wear.
Yeah.
Because if it's too toxic, it's not good for you. If it's laced with aluminum, for example, or aluminum, depending what country you're from, that has been shown to go through your lymph nodes that are in your armpits. There's tons of them in the armpits, and potentially linked. Again, I say potentially linked. I'm not saying it absolutely because I don't know for sure, but I know it's potentially linked to Alzheimer's disease. So we want to be very careful with aluminum or aluminium, be very careful in how we use it, we use it, especially on our body. So I use a deodorant, for example. It does, you don't need that. I don't stink. There are natural solutions. In the UK, it's called Proverb Skincare. They make deodorant that works brilliantly and it doesn't have that in it. In the US, I don't know.
Yeah, in the
So I'm
US
sure you can find it.
also, they're all kind of, all natural organic products, deodorant that you can use. I do that as well because
Mm.
I am somebody who lives my life around my cats, and I'm sure that comes as a surprise to anybody who listens to this show.
Really?
But I have a cat who not only likes to smell in there, snuggle in there, but he likes to lick in there. So
Huh.
I do, of course, I'm always very careful with anything I put on my skin because I don't want my cats to get sick. So I do use, and it's a good practice anyway. So I do use all natural organic products. In the US, they're very easy to find. There are many stores that sell, all organic natural products. So you can use your deodorant and have your cat be safe and let your cat enjoy the smells. None of them are mutually exclusive.
Exactly. Perfect. So Leslie, I'm curious. How about you? Do your cats also enjoy your body odor?
Not these yet, because they've not been with me very long, but one of my previous cats, very much so. Tigger, that I lost in June, she would burrow into the bed to get even closer to me.
Oh, yeah, that's really cool. I wish my cats did that. They don't do the bed thing. They sleep at the foot, but they don't
Oh,
in the bed.
these two actually sleep. Well, one of them sleeps right next to me, but on the outside of the duvet. And
Oh, that's lovely. Anyway,
that's
that's
been very rewarding, as they've
and
not been
and,
here.
and those cats that you have are rescue cats, aren't they? So
Yeah,
they're not some breed that you adopted or purchased somewhere. They're rescues. So that's
that's
a
all I've
very good bonding.
ever had. I've had 8 rescues and one, yeah, but that was when I was little and
Well, that's
young.
great bonding. That's great bonding. That's what I'm saying. It's really
Yeah,
nice to see that.
yeah,
And then, what's interesting is that when we talk about body odor and things like that, humans we're sensitive to that. So, today we use deodorants or antiperspirants and all of that kind of stuff. I mean, this week I had to be in a suit and tie somewhere that had no air conditioning, and it was a hot day. I have this little neck fan I got somewhere cheap. It just looks like headphones. It sits there
yeah.
and it blows air. I mean, there's things we got to do. I mean, back in the Middle Ages, imagine that when I mean, deodorant wasn't invented yet. I mean, people must have stank. I mean, in the Victorian times, which is not that long ago, they still didn't have deodorant, but they had these little necklaces they'd wear with some very strong perfumes or essential
Yeah.
oils in them, so they could smell. The real purpose of those is because people stank, so you had to smell something pleasant over here. But in the Middle Ages, they had nothing. They didn't have this stuff here. So it must have been a pretty smelly time. But related, but about the Middle Ages, did you know that in Europe in the Middle Ages that they used to hold festivals, obviously, and they used to catapult. They used to put the cat in the catapult and catapult them through the air in the festivals, and this was thought to ward off evil spirits.
Oh my goodness.
Don't like that.
No, I don't like the idea of catapulting little kitty cats, but it's just I think it's kind of funny that they believed that it warded off evil spirits, knowing that later people associated cats like black cats with witches and evil spirits. So cats are actually anti-evil spirit. They're there to warn you against them. So I think anyway, I think it's kind of amusing. So there we go. So there's the answer to cat smells. They love the smells normally, and they love your smells.
Yes.
Now we had a question that you remembered to bring to us, Dr. Rachel. So
Yes.
want to let us know what that one was?
Yeah, well, I saw on the Kitty Boss
Hmm.
page that one person had asked about cats and water, why they dislike water so much and bathing a cat. And then somebody had the question about the Bengal cat. So those are two really good questions, I thought. Because cats really are very clean animals. They are clean and fastidious creatures who spend a lot of time grooming themselves. So people often do ask about like bathing a cat or why don't cats, why don't cats like water? And there's actually a few different reasons, and they're kind of interesting. So I think it's worth talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when a cat has wet fur, it's actually really, really uncomfortable for that cat. They don't like that feeling of the fur being matted down and really wet on them. And the other thing is when a cat has wet fur, it takes a really long time for that fur to dry. So cats just dislike that feeling. There's also a safety issue with wet fur. Wet fur is really heavier. It's much heavier than a cat's natural dry fur, and it's way heavier than even a cat's natural grooming when they're, cleaning themselves with their tongues. So from a cat's perspective, they feel like it makes them less nimble, less quick, um, and it makes them feel vulnerable. It makes them feel easier for a predator to catch. So they really don't like that feeling of that heavy, wet fur on them. Um, in addition to that safety issue involving predators, it does make their paws slippery. So the cat can't feel like she can really grip surfaces as well when her paws are really, wet from, like, if they were really submerged in water or put in a bathtub. So that can make the cat feel threatened. And in general, like when you go to bathe a cat, there's a big shock factor, like all of a sudden they're just submerged in water. And in general, cats do like to feel in control of situations. They like to make the decisions on their own when they groom themselves. It's very important to a cat. And the most important reason is, domesticated cats are descended from cats who lived in very dry, very arid areas. They were descended from areas like deserts. So they really never learned to swim because there was no, evolutionary need for them to need to swim. They were never near water. So this behavior has become part of their instinct and has really stuck with them all of these years. So it's behavior that's kind of been, genetic at this point. It's in their genes to not really want to be in water. But as someone brought up on your page, which this is what's fun about the page, is that there are, now we have breeding, and now we have cats who are bred with certain personalities and certain characteristics. So there are some breeds that are known for enjoying swimming. And as somebody pointed out, Bengal cats are one of those breeds. They love water. But again, this has a lot to do with their ancestry and their evolution. So Bengal cats, their descendants are Asian leopard cats. These are the Bengal ancestors. So these were wild animals who swim all the time. They enjoy swimming. They dip their paws in water to clean themselves. They swish their paws in the water. They're animals who grew up with water for many, many years. So it's a whole different story. So Bengals do enjoy water. You'll see a Bengal cat. I have people with Bengal cats. I'm clients of Bengal cats who, like, they go in the bathtub and the cat wants to go into the bathtub with them. And they're more apt to want to drink from water faucets. They enjoy swimming in general. So that is like the exception to, most of the mixed breed cats that we have who are descended from these dry, arid regions. There are cats who do like water because they were bred from different.
Yeah, and it's nothing to worry about because
Not at all.
realistically
Either
speaking,
way.
you never need to bathe your cat. You don't
do
have
not.
to do that. If it gets super filthy and muddy and flea infested, okay, you need to give it a bath. But normally on a day-to-day basis, my cats haven't had a bath in years. They don't need it. They're clean. They're cleaner than you and I. They're very, very clean creatures.
Yes,
So
they're fastidious. There's no reason that you need
fastidious.
to give yes.
Super fastidious.
Super
Now, we've had a comment from Garnet, and it's a large one, so it's going to block all our faces. So I'm just going to put it up on the screen and read it real quickly. Back to the smells thing. So he says, in my last generation of cats, and I remember Monkey Cat from Bulgaria, she was most interested in getting out. If she slipped past me, I would run all around outside, monkey, monkey, shaking treats, anything I could do to get her close enough to grab her and take her back inside. Neighbors thought I was crazy. The other cats learned that after Monkey escaped and was brought back in, all the cats would get a treat. I think they cheered her on so they could get extra treats. So yeah, that's back about the smells next. But then he was talking about cats getting out. It's very tricky when they get out. Mine luckily now I've learned. We go out in the garden sometimes together with me and them. And then they eat some grass, and then that helps them to then cleanse their system. And then they start to look under the hedge or somewhere, and I just have to yell their name, and they know they're being naughty and they need to come back in. Because a few times they slipped under the hedge, and I'm panicking because I don't know where they've gone. And then one time though, Charlotte made me really proud because there was another cat that came in the garden, and my big, fluffy, adorable, sweet angel Charlotte turned into this lion and chased this, scared the life out of this big cat because he tried it on with her. He hissed at her, and that was a mistake. So she chased him out of the garden, under the hedge, and all that. And I'd never seen her be so vicious. And then she came back, strutting her stuff, so proud that she defended her turf like a lioness. So that was that. But yeah, so now I don't have to worry so much, but I still have to keep an eye on them because they do like to explore. And then Garnet also says, I used some worn T-shirts in the cat carriers for Sharuk and Devi, that's the other cat's name, when I took them in for their neuter and spay. Yeah, exactly. And that's a really great strategy to do, which might actually also prevent that non-recognition issue that they have sometimes when they come back from the vet and then they like start getting hissy or angry or something. And that's usually from non-recognition. So that probably helps with that.
Yeah.
Which actually reminds me, at the end of the month, it's their annual checkup. So I'll be doing that. Thanks for the reminder, Garnet. I'll be doing exactly that. Not washing one of my shirts and putting those stinky undies in. No, just kidding. Putting that T-shirt in there so that they, and I have 2 cat carriers. I gotta say 2 of them for each cat. So great reminder. Thank you for that. Leslie, do you have anything else you'd like to say? Because I know you have your cats and water. Have you had the same experience, Mike? I've never had a cat that loved water. They don't hate it.
Mine is the Bengal.
Yes.
And it was my question.
Oh, it was there you go.
Because someone told me they loved swimming, but I didn't know whether they did or not. And yeah, that's answered my question, which is great.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, I've never had a cat like that. My cats have always not liked water. It's not been like some terror cats that are terrible with it, but whenever I've had to bathe my cats, again, because of flea or some kind of other problem, it's not been that bad. I can hold them. They don't like it, but I can hold them down a little bit. And with a gentle, obviously you don't want to fire hose them, but you gently, wet them down, shampoo, all of that. Of course, you need a cat or kitten shampoo. You can't just use like Pert or, something Aussie brand, from Poundland. It's got to be for cats for the pH balance. But actually, it reminds me, there's another reason why you don't want to overgroom and overbathe your cats. Because I have a friend who takes her cat, a long-hair cat, to the groomer all the time, and it comes back smelling like cookies or brownies or something.
Right.
And it's because whenever you bathe the cat, you're stripping and it's the same for people, the natural oils from the hair or the fur. And those are very important for the health of it. Now, I know it doesn't smell always the best in your hair, but if you shampooed aggressively 7 days a week, you would be doing damage to your scalp and your hair. Now, I shampoo, I don't know, I don't want to hold myself up as a model, but not every day. I do shower every day, but I shampoo probably 3 times a week maximum. So you want to really make sure that you're not over grooming your cats, and your cats really, they never need it unless they're super filthy. They never need to go to the groomer.
Yes.
So because you're stripping those oils and there's pheromones.
Yeah, scent deposits are so important to a cat. It just drives so much of the way they act and what they do. So yeah, we really want to let them have their own natural smells on them. It can be really upsetting and stressful for a cat not to have that.
Not to have that. Yeah, exactly. And so we have another comment from our friend, the cat savant, and it says, one of my kitties loves jumping in the shower and always lingers around when I bathe the kids. One of these days he may jump in. That is funny.
Yes.
That is really cool and really fun. I wish I had that problem. It's just so much fun. I have a different problem, which is when the shower is not being used, occasionally Charlotte likes to let me know that the litter box is a little too filthy and I need to change the litter. And so she'll take a poo in the shower. And that's, she never does that, but I notice she does if I've neglected to change and, put new litter, fresh litter in, for a little bit too long.
Yeah, and
So
and the tub is a very common place for a poop that's not in the litter box.
yeah, and speaking of poop, if anyone is worried about their litter box and the convenience of it, the Cat Savant has a fantastic product out there which attaches to the outside of the litter box and helps you just scoop it out there, and then you just take it off. So it's not a permanent fixture, and it just makes that journey from litter box to bag to disposal much easier if your litter box isn't, for example, near a toilet, and all of that. So I encourage people to check it out. I have one. And so again, I don't have 3 for each litter box because I don't need it for all 3, but for the one that I do need it, it's a lifesaver. So I think it's really good idea.
Yes.
But anyway, back to back to non poop items. So we've talked about all of these really important things about the hydration. We've talked about cats and water. We've talked about the smells, and even the Middle Ages. Cats getting catapulted. I hope we never do that again in our history. But I did want to mention one other thing, and it's because our friend could not join us today because it's her big book launch. But I wanted to do something to support it because I do love natural healing, energy work, these kind of things. I'm also into science, but I also like the other side of life. And so she has a book that is all about cat chakras. So for anybody that is like into chakras or like, oh, you have the book. There you go. There's the book. I didn't buy it yet. There's the book. So it's all about cat chakras. So people have chakras, but guess what? Cats also have them. I'll tell you this. Okay, so here's a little bit of personal, information. I like to meditate. I do meditation twice a day. And I noticed that my cats will often come and sit by me, and they have 2 different styles. So Charlotte likes to align her chakras straight with mine. So I'm sitting, like this style cross-legged. So my chakras are all up and down. And Charlotte will sit with her backside, facing my, root chakra. So near my pubis, and her head facing out that way. So our chakras are like this. They're aligned in a straight line. That's really interesting. Emily doesn't sit like that. Emily sits the opposite way, where she'll sit across. So her chakras and mine form a T at the base. So like an upside down T. So I think it's very interesting. I don't know why they do that. It's possibly answered in the book. I haven't read it yet, but I think it's a really amazing concept. And she, of course, has classes and energy work for cats that she offers, and meditations for cats, all kinds of stuff that is absolutely amazing. So I've put it on the screen, and for the benefit of anyone listening who is listening to this podcast, it's naturallycats.co.uk/shop/cat-chakra-book. I'll spell it. naturallycats.co.uk/shop/CAT-HYPHEN-CHAKRA-BOOK. naturallycats.co.uk/shop/cat-chakra-book. So I encourage you really to check that out. If you didn't catch what I just said and repeated, no worries. Send us a message. I'll send you the link, or I'll send you to her page, and you can link up with her from Naturally Cats. It's an amazing thing. And then, of course, I want to remind everyone that Dr. Rachel Geller, who is on here as our weekly co-host, has her own website, which is drrachelcatbehavior.com. And it's if you're thinking of surrendering your cat, if you're having issues with your cat and you're about to give the cat up, wait, don't do it yet. You could still do it if you have to. I'm not saying don't do, although I don't like the idea. But give Dr. Rachel a chance, because you got nothing to lose. Her services are offered free of charge because she's on a mission to help keep 1,000 cats a year in their homes. So there's no charge. It's absolutely free. So it's drrachelcatbehavior, drrachelcatbehavior.com, for absolutely free stuff. And if you think you can't afford a cat, All Cats All the Time, which you find through her main link, is her nonprofit for people who are low income, who need assistance in, getting some stuff that they need in order to have a cat. So there's no excuses anymore. You can have a cat. You have the time, you have the money. That's not a problem. You want a cat, you can get one. Don't worry. So this is the solutions we offered. So I wanted to make sure that we go over that because that's super important. Right. So let's start with Leslie. Is there anything you'd like to say or ask or comment on before we end the show?
I'd like to ask Dr. Rachel. My cats both wag their tails like a dog. Is that significant?
Yeah, that's completely fine and completely normal. So I know when cats start, a lot of people ask this question because when a dog wags his tail, he's happy. And sometimes when cats really lash their tails back and forth, they're not happy. But a gentle swish or a gentle wag back and forth is completely fine, completely normal, and means that the cat is happy, the cat is content, the cat is approachable. So what you want to be on the lookout for is if they're really lashing that tail very quickly and almost a little violently back and forth, then that's a whole different issue. If they're putting their tails down onto the floor between their legs, that's a different issue. But otherwise, a regular, normal wag is completely fine, and a lot of cats do that.
They're puppies. They're puppy cats. Don't worry about it. So we have a few more really cool comments. So we have the Cats of On saying, "Oh, thank you. Glad to hear it helps." Of course. Then we have a question for someone, which is how often to do a complete litter box change. So that's an interesting question because if you mean get a brand new litter box and throw the litter box away, that would be if the litter box gets sort of infested with either ammonia smell from too much uric acid that seeps into the plastic. That can happen, and that means you probably need a new box itself. If you just mean when is it time to just throw out the old litter and put the new one in, it depends how heavily it's been used. So I have 3 litter boxes, and my cats gang up on the one downstairs, both of them, and use it every day. I got to change that one once or twice a week because they gang up on it. The one on the middle floor, they use off and on. I can change that one every 2 weeks or so because they do use it, but not that often. And the one in my bedroom, they also use, but again, not that often. I can change it once every 3 weeks to a month. So it depends on how heavily they're using it. So you just got to keep an eye on it and see, how fresh is the litter and is it stinking? Is it full of, pee and poo
Right,
and all that?
saturated. Yeah. I mean, I would say on average, usually once a week is a good, standard. But you do want to scoop daily, make sure you're scooping. Yeah, every
Scooping,
day.
as far as so that was the complete litter box change. But but
Don't
now
just
just
put
a
it in, throw
reminder,
that in. Yes.
when I say a week or 3 weeks, I am scooping out the poop as it happens.
Me
And
too.
my
Yeah.
cats are really smart. Emily will call me, and so will Charlotte. Meow meow meow, and take me to the litter box and show me that they're taking a dump because they want me to put that away in the toilet immediately. They don't want it sitting there. So they're very good about that. And then with the pee, when I see pee there, I don't use clumping litter. So what I mean by that is when the pellets turn to sawdust, they can go in the toilet without clogging it. So I dump that away as well. So but nothing ever sits in there for more than an hour. I mean, it's really you do need don't leave stuff in there.
And I just want to remind people too, like when you're deciding, how often to completely change out that litter, just don't look at the top, move the litter box around because sometimes the bottom can be completely saturated and almost like cement, but you don't notice it on the top layer. So, make sure you look.
Yeah, you have to swill it around and do that. And then we have a couple more comments. We have, "Oh, I'm so excited for this book." This is, of course, a comment for the Cat Chakras book. Of course, am I. And then Dr. Rachel, surprise, we just got our copy of Dr. Rachel's book because Dr. Rachel, of course, also has a book. The proceeds from her book, of course, go and 100% to cat charities or cat shelters to help rescues. But yeah, that's Dr. Rachel has an amazing book about, of course, cat behavior. So go to her website check it out. That's what I could do for you. But it's also on Amazon, I think. Is it on
Yeah,
Amazon?
it's on Amazon as well. And thank you for pointing it out that for me, 100% of the proceeds go to cat shelters, cat rescues, organizations that provide grants to cat shelters, and also to my nonprofit, All Cats All the Time, which I use to help low income people keep their cats in their homes. I do medical assists. I help with prescription cat food. Of course, I provide my cat behavior free of charge, but sometimes the things that you need to keep the cat in your home, like a scratching post or more litter boxes,
Mhm.
can be pricey. So I use my nonprofit to help people to keep their cats in their homes. So thank you for your support. Because when you buy my book, hopefully you enjoy it, you learn something, but you're also paying it forward and helping other people to keep their cats. So thank you very much.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can never have too many sort of cat behavior books. Cats are very individual pets. They're VIPs, and so it's like you can get our perspectives on it, but none of it is Bibles. So Dr. Rachel's perspective is one of the best in the whole world. So everyone needs to have and should read her book, and then you can never have too many. So make sure you get that one especially, because that one supports the good causes that are near and dear to all of our hearts, which is cats. So thank you very much. So Dr. Rachel, is there anything you'd say, ask, or tell us before we end the show?
I would just thank you very much for doing these monthly catch ups. I love being a guest of yours once a month. And Leslie, thank you so much for joining us. It was really fun to have a different voice and a different perspective. And I'm glad I was able to answer your questions right here, live on the Kitty Boss. So thank
And
you.
Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah, thank you, Rachel. Thank you, Dr. Rachel, and thank you. I was going to say Dr. Leslie, but thank you, Leslie and Dr. Rachel. This is a podcast where we have our catch up or cats up. So it's the Kitty Boss. So I will say goodbye to both of you and remind everybody that this is Cat Lady Justin, and you're watching the Kitty Boss or listening to it, where we pick, pamper, and protect your practically perfect pussycat for a lifetime of unconditional love. Join us every month where me and Dr. Rachel, and sometimes a surprise guest, dive into positive and pertinent pussycat topics. See you real soon.